Hey everybody, welcome back in. Today we're going to do a quick video. This is going to be a primer for other videos we're going to put out very soon. This one's all about the altered scale. Let's get into it. Okay, so I remember when I was younger learning about jazz, learning about all these crazy chords that we come across in the jazz language. Altered was always something that gave me a lot of trouble until I had a great teacher explain to me exactly how to form this scale, and then it became much easier. So altered is kind of exactly what it sounds like. It's a chord where most of the notes are altered to be something else to give us a lot of tension. And typically this is used in a 5-to-1 fashion. So we get all of that tension and then we release that tension when we get to the one chord. We'll get into that later. So just to let you guys know, this is sort of a primer to some videos that we're going to put out in the coming weeks that are going to actually talk about how to use altered. We're going to look at a great transcription, a great line, and we're also going to come up with some of our own lines, simplifying the altered scale even further. But before we do that, I got to kind of explain to you what altered is, how we derive it, and get your head wrapped around that first before we go into the more practical material. So if you don't know how to form an altered scale, it's actually pretty simple, but there is sort of a requirement before you get into altered, and that is that you have to know what a melodic minor scale is. Here's the simplest way to think about a melodic minor scale. It is a major scale with a flatted third. So you don't change anything else. All you do is you flat that third and you've got your melodic minor. So let's take a look at a C-sharp melodic minor scale. So what you're going to notice is this is just a C-sharp major scale with a flatted third. Nothing else changes. It's a really interesting sound as well, one that is essential if you want to be a jazz musician. Let's check that out first. Here's a C-sharp melodic minor scale. So the requirement for learning your altered material is that you have to know your melodic minor scales. Now, hopefully most of you out there know your major scales, so it should be pretty easy to figure out your melodic minor scales because all you're doing is altering one tone between major and melodic minor. So that's step number one, figure out your melodic minor scales. Now, once you know your melodic minor scales, all we have to do is play a certain mode of that melodic minor scale, and it happens to be the seventh mode. So if I take a C-sharp melodic minor scale and I go up to the seventh note in that scale, it's a B-sharp technically, right? We're going to call it C. I know that's not theoretically sound, but let's call it C just to make things easier for us practically. So if you were to play a C-sharp melodic minor scale, but start it on C, you would get a C7 altered scale. Now let's check out what that sounds like because it's extremely different than the sound of playing a C-sharp melodic minor scale. All of the relationships change, right? We're starting with a half step, things like that. So it really throws it into a different arena of sound when we start on that seventh mode of the melodic minor scale. So here is a C-sharp melodic minor scale starting on C, and we're going to call this the C7 altered scale. It's a very interesting sound, right? So let's go over what the notes are in C, right? If you see a C7 alt chord, let's go over what the notes actually are in this. So obviously we start on the root, then we go up to the flat 9, then we get the sharp 9, then we get 3, then we get sharp 11, then we get sharp 5. Are you starting to see that every tone is altered except for the root and the third so far? Okay, so root, flat 9, sharp 11, sharp 5. Then we get that flat 7. You notice that there's no 6 in this scale. It's because of the presence of two different kinds of 9s. We don't have room for a 6. So we're going right from the sharp 5 to the flat 7, and then we're back on the root. A lot of really interesting tension-filled notes that we have in this scale. Okay, so now we know how to play the scale, so let's figure out how to actually arpeggiate this chord also using the extensions. So what we're going to do is we're going to take 1, 3, 5, and 7, play that as our bass arpeggio. Then we're going to play all of those in-between notes, all of the extensions on top of those. So we're going to play 1, 3, sharp 5, flat 7. Then we're going to play flat 9, sharp 11. No 13 on this chord, right? Because there's no 6 in the scale. So all we have to worry about is the 9s and the 11s. We have flat 9, sharp 9, and sharp 11. Let's check out what the arpeggio sounds like. Again, you can really hear all of that tension that is going on in that arpeggio. You know, we've got the sharp 5, we've got both types of 9s, we've got that sharp 11. We've got a lot of stuff that's going to sound really interesting to load up on before we resolve to that one chord. Tension and release. It's what music is all about. So that's it. That's your quick primer on the altered scale. That's how we derive it from music theory, and that is a practical application of it. So what would I suggest to you to work on before we come out with our next videos? Well, work on the altered scale. So here goes the order of operations. Number 1, learn your melodic minor scales. Number 2, learn the 7th mode of each one of those melodic minor scales. That's going to be your altered scale. Number 3, also learn the arpeggios and start to wrap your ears around this particular sound that is going to be so cool to use in your playing once you have everything together. All right, that's going to do it. Hey, if you don't mind, if you enjoyed this video, please hit the like button. That is how we get discovered by other saxophone players and jazz musicians just like you. Make sure you subscribe and hit that little notification bell. That's going to tell you when we come out with our further altered videos, actually showing you how to use this stuff in real life. Make sure you do that. I really appreciate it. Thank you so much for tuning in. We really appreciate you guys watching this channel, and we'll see you on the next video. Have fun with this stuff. Bye.